There's something unsettling about being alone at home. The quiet stillness of the walls around you, the ticking of the clock. Until suddenly, you hear something that shouldn't be there. Tonight, we bring you 3 terrifying true stories of ordinary people who were home alone, until they weren't. Sarah had always been comfortable in her small apartment. It was cozy, a safe haven, her retreat from the chaos of the outside world. But one night, the very walls that offered her solace would become her prison. It started with a noise, a faint creak as though someone was walking down the hallway. At first, Sarah dismissed it as her neighbors, until the creaking grew louder and more deliberate, like footsteps pacing back and forth. She froze. The footsteps stopped right outside her bedroom door. Her heart raced as she grabbed her phone, ready to call the police. But then, silence. Gathering her courage, Sarah opened the door, but no one was there. For weeks, Sarah would hear the same footsteps every night, pacing her hallway, stopping at her door. But no matter how fast she checked, no one was ever there. Eventually, she moved out, leaving behind whatever or whoever was haunting her. David had recently moved into a charming 2-story house in the suburbs. It was quiet, far from the noise of the city, and the perfect place for a fresh start. But soon, the house itself seemed to come alive with whispers. At first, David thought the voices he heard were coming from outside, maybe kids playing or neighbors talking. But one night, while home alone, he realized the whispers were coming from the walls inside the house. He pressed his ear to the wall, listening carefully. At first, it was just a faint murmur, but soon the voices grew louder, more distinct. They whispered his name as though they were inside his mind, watching him. One night, the whispers became unbearable. They grew louder, more insistent, until David could no longer stay in the house. He fled, leaving behind his belongings, never to return. Melissa had always prided herself on being self-sufficient. Living alone had never bothered her, until the night she realized she wasn't alone. It was late when Melissa heard the noise. A soft scraping sound, like something brushing against the outside of the house. She brushed it off, assuming it was just the wind. But the noise came again, this time louder. She peeked through the curtains, and her heart nearly stopped. There was a man standing just outside, staring directly at her, panicking. Melissa ran to grab her phone. She turned around, but the man was gone. She locked all the doors and windows, heart pounding, praying he wouldn't return. Hours passed, and Melissa remained huddled in her bedroom, her phone clutched in her hand. Then, a soft knock echoed from the front door. Her breath hitched as she heard the man's voice whispering her name through the door. She never opened the door, and eventually the knocking stopped. When the police arrived hours later, they found footprints outside, but no trace of the man. He had vanished, leaving only fear in his wake. Sometimes the scariest part of being alone isn't the solitude itself, but the things we can't see, lurking just beyond the darkness. These 3 stories are reminders that when you're home alone, you might not always be alone. Stay safe out there. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more terrifying stories.